Hi YouTube, Eddie here. Today we're going to go ahead and review the Kreg Accu cut. I have a project coming up where I'm going to take several pieces of plywood and make various cuts into them according to a cut list. Ideally, I would love to have a track saw, but that's $500 and I just don't want to spend $500 on a track saw. My table saw, the fence only goes out 30 inches. It's not a cabinet saw, so with the fence only going out 30 inches, it's just too unsafe for a full sheet of plywood. At least it is for me. What I typically do when I need to cut up a piece of plywood is I'll take my circular saw and a straight edge, and that seems to have worked for me in the past. It's just, as those who have done it know, that it could be time consuming and a little frustrating at times. So hopefully this will decrease the frustration and the time it takes to cut up a full sheet of plywood. This was $80 at Home Depot, so it was very inexpensive. 80 is a lot better than 500. So we're going to go ahead and unbox it, send it through its paces, and I'm going to let you know what I think about it, whether or not $80 was well spent. Okay. Okay, inside the Kreg Accu cut package, you have 2 tracks. You have hardware to connect the tracks together. You have what's called a starting block and a sled that you connect your circular saw to, and it flows along the track. This starting block, basically the starting block, it fits into your track thusly. And what this does is, if you're cutting a full length of plywood across all 48 inches, you're going to need a few extra inches for the saw to actually start the cut. And that's what that's for. Okay, the first step is to assemble the tracks. So these go together. These arrows have to be lined up. Take out your connector bars. Okay, this is looking pretty decent. This is these are put together, they're tight, they're smooth, and they look pretty straight. One thing I forgot to mention on the back here is this rubber. It's super grippy, if that's a word, but it just doesn't move, which is fantastic. With that, you're not going to have to clamp this down to your plywood. But one thing, you're probably going to want to keep it free of sawdust, which, of course, I have a problem in this shop. I don't have a dust collection system yet, but I will keep it as clean as I can, because this really works. This is fantastic. Okay, and the last thing I tell you to do is to take the starting block and put it in the end here. Right like that. Okay, we are good with the track. They're telling me that I need to orient the filler strip. And this is the filler strip. I don't know if you could see that, but this is angled in an upward motion, and it came installed thusly. Now what this is for is if this edge of your circular saw is angled up, you would keep that angle. However, mine's flat, so I have to turn it over and use the flat part. There, that's all I did. Again, this edge right here is flat. Some circular saws are angled, but this one's flat, so I need to use the flat filler bar. Okay, now I have to mount the saw onto the sled. And the way that you mount it, you put your saw in here, and these connectors, these are set screws here. You turn these set screws, you tighten these set screws onto your saw. So let's see. The first step, they tell me to remove this stop right here. Okay, this arm right here, this attaching arm looks like it's fine, but this one, it's barely hitting this right here. It's towards the edge here. But what they say is if you're not happy with the placement here, I can move this arm over into this hole if I want to, or this arm into that hole. This one I'm going to keep, but this one I'm going to switch it up. This thing is going to call me a liar. I'm going to take this one out also and move it over. Okay. All right. So you can see the leading edge here is flush up against the sled, which is exactly what we want. So now we're just going to tighten down these set screws. And I think you want to be careful because this sled is made of plastic, and if you keep dogging down these set screws, you might, I think it's possible you could crack the sled. So yeah, I didn't dog it down too much. And it's on there. It's on there. It's not going anywhere. Okay. Next. Okay, so this blue strip, these are called guide strips. This is part of that hard rubber. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to cut a 32nd of an inch off of this guide strip. And I've aligned the circular saw in the sled such that it'll cut a 32nd of an inch off of that. So let's get cutting. I don't know if you could see this, but we have blue plastic everywhere, and that's a good thing. That's a good sign. So now we have a true zero clearance. We have a true reference now. And what the next step that we want to put this stop in here, the one that we took off. We want to put this stop in here so that we don't have to adjust this next time we use it. Boom. Perfect. So now we're ready to use this on a full sheet of plywood. So let's get started on that. Okay, so I've marked this full sheet of plywood where I need to make my cut. And in theory, all I have to do is put this edge right on my mark line. Okay, that looks pretty good. Yeah, looks pretty good. All right, keep your fingers crossed. Well, to be perfectly honest, I'm extremely pleased with this. Like I mentioned earlier, if I had my druthers, I would have, you know, a track saw, a separate track saw. But again, those are $500. This was $80. This did a fantastic job. I didn't have to think about anything. And for me being blonde, that's important. I didn't have to do any math. I didn't have to, you know, calculate the 1.5 inches from the side here to where the blade is. And also, it's not just 1.5 inches, that's easy. What side of the cut is the line, you know, what side of the line is the cut going to be on? There, you're going to have to back out the width of the kerf of the blade. This, you don't have to do anything, nothing. So, I'm extremely pleased, and it's just going to make my project that I'm working on just go that much smoother. Very happy with this, and I think it's worth the $80 that I spent at Home Depot on it. So, thumbs up for me. And guys, like always, if you like the video, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.